This video is brought to you by my latest book, How to Play Melodic Rock Lead Guitar, a comprehensive guide to doing exactly that, playing melodic rock lead guitar. This is not just some collection of scale patterns and tabs, although you do get plenty of those, but you also get an entire chapter on how to come up with your own licks, as well as video content, tutorials and demonstrations, loads of jam tracks, and all the way through I'm encouraging you to expand your fretboard knowledge and showing you how you can think in a more musical and melodic way. Check out the link in the description for more details. Hello chaps, welcome once again to John Robson Guitar Tuition. As always, I do hope you're well. This topic today isn't one that I like to talk about that much because it is, I'm afraid, a bit of a whinge. And frankly, who wants to listen to a fat bloke from up north whinging for 10 minutes? But indulge me on this one because I'm just getting a little bit hacked off with what's happening here. The damned copyright wombles have hit me again. A few weeks ago I did a video where I was talking about using double stops in a blues. And, you know, for the purposes of making that video, I recorded a backing track that, you know, it was a 12-bar blues, but, you know, that's hardly, you know, a copyrightable thing. And you know, I played some blues licks over the top of it, many of which included double stops. And then I got a notification saying that the copyright had been claimed because I'd used the melody of some piece of music or other. Really? I stole a melody from somebody. I happened to just by a 1 in a 10 billion chance happened to improvise a melody, a solo that happened to be the melody of someone else's copyrighted piece of music. Yeah, okay. It's becoming impossible to teach blues guitar on YouTube, you know, and given that is, you know, I mean, I'm a blues guitar player, blues, classic rock, that's what I do. So if YouTube are going to start playing, you know, silly games like this, then, you know, I mean, it does leave me in a bit of a quandary. It's the reason I stopped doing the Monday solo analysis videos, because pretty much every one of those was getting, you know, kind of a copyright claim on it, and there's probably about a day's work in each one of those videos, so that was a day's work that I wasn't getting paid for. Now, when it's just kind of some random blues improvisation, when that's getting claimed, I think that's, you know, just taking the biscuit. I mean, even when I'm kind of playing someone else's solo, which arguably does have some sort of copyright dimension to it, there is the fair use clause, which means that as long as you're adding value essentially in some sort of tuition sense, which is what I do, then you can challenge it. I'm going to come back to why it's not worth challenging these things. I don't think it is, very shortly. But you know, you can kind of say, well, okay, you know, I am playing music that has got a copyright dimension to it, so you know, there is some door there that can be pushed open to make a claim against me. Same when I've done cover versions, fair enough. I mean, I did, when I got that red Squire Strat on the back wall there, I did a Shadows cover and put that up on YouTube, and immediately it was claimed, and that's fair enough. You know, there wasn't any tuition element to that. It was just me doing a cover version because, you know, I'm a big Shadows fan, and I'd got a Shadows-ish looking guitar. So that got claimed. So cover versions, I can see the justification, and for tuition based upon the, you know, kind of a copyrighted piece of music, I can kind of see that, although there is, as I say, the fair use get out, which just seems to be completely ignored by YouTube. The reason why I don't think it's worth the risk of challenging it is because I went through part way through the process a little while ago on one of these challenges, which again was just a 12-bar blues that I'd improvised. And it was, you get to a certain point where you get a big warning, like this, you go through like a kind of an online form, and you get to a point where, you know, kind of, do you want to continue? And then you get, there's a warning where it says, if this is deemed to be, I can't remember the exact language, but if it's deemed to be some sort of vexatious claim, then that could potentially cost me my channel. We know that there's the 3 strikes and you're out copyright strike. I've never had a copyright strike where, you know, you just get like a proper, you know, sort of, you know, proper telling off, a proper finger wagging from the powers that be. But I've never had one of those, but I've had plenty of copyright claims, which, you know, it always says, this doesn't affect the status of your channel, you know, etc., etc. But we're just taking the money for this video off you. Oh, no, they actually say you're sharing it, yeah. Sharing, you don't get like a big percentage of it, it has to be said. I think they go through that because, you know, of fair use and all that, but you don't, basically you're not making any money from the videos where you're supposedly sharing the income from it. And in the past, when I've done you know, cover versions, as I say, I hold my hands up and say, if I'm doing a cover version and I'm just doing it as a tribute to the person concerned, to the artist concerned, fair enough. I don't expect to get paid for doing that. I'm playing their copyrighted music. But when I'm doing, you know, tuition content based upon copyrighted music, then, you know, I don't get paid for that either. Well, it's sharing, you know, but essentially you don't get paid. And I always used to console myself by thinking, okay, so what's happening here is that the record companies are ripping me off, but how much have I ripped them off over the years? Every time I've, you know, copied an album onto a cassette, or, you know, maybe I'm not admitting to anything illegal here, but there used to be a site called Pirate Bay, just saying, and there used to be, you know, a service called Napster, just saying, you know, and of course I utterly frown on any such forms of piracy. But, you know, I will admit to the fact that I would copy albums onto cassette. You know, you'd have an album and your friend would have a different album and you'd both wanted to own both copies of albums, so cassettes would be exchanged, you know. I've done that every time I sat as a spotty child with my fingers poised over the play and record buttons as I listened to the top 40 on a Sunday tea time. There was a real art to that, wasn't there? There really was, about just kind of chopping it off before the DJ started blethering over the fade out. So yeah, over the years I reckon I've taken the record companies for as much as they've taken me for. And I would always console myself with that. But when it's interfering with my ability to teach the kind of music that I love on YouTube, as in, you know, playing blues guitar, when I've just created my own backing track and I've improvised my own solo, and then they say, oh, sorry, we're taking that off you, that's somebody else's work that you've copied, it gets the hackles raised a little bit. I will admit to that. So I'm going to have a long, hard think about the way I'm going to continue trying to teach blues on YouTube. I had the notion that, well, you know, I noticed that every time I put a blues jam up that was in the key of A, that would get claimed. So I haven't put anything up in the key of A major recently. But the one I'm talking about, I think, was in G major, the latest one. You know, one of the bizarre ones that gets claimed is if you use anything remotely like the chord sequence for Need Your Love So Bad in a solo, you know, somebody that you can pull at the thread and trace it back, somebody in the Fleetwood Mac kind of camp will always be making a claim on that. Even though that song wasn't written by anyone in Fleetwood Mac, it goes, but their version of it was a cover. And even when you change the chord sequence, so it's not the same chord sequence, and even when you improvise, you know, your own solo over the top of it, you always get the notification. It's always the same, that it's the melody that you've stolen. Well, no, I haven't, because the melody is copyrightable, but the chord sequence isn't. That's something I am pretty confident on, that you can't copyright a chord sequence. But that's all of these things are, you know, ridden roughshod over by the powers that be at YouTube. I think the way that it works is that copyright owners, publishers, record labels, whoever, are probably got AI bots crawling all over YouTube and sniffing out anything that they reckon that can trouser a few quid over. And, you know, so they get in touch with YouTube and say, this video by this bald lad up in the north, that's infringing our copyright. And YouTube always go, oh, I'm so sorry, sir, there's your money. You know, so the reason why it's not worth appealing is because, or challenging it, is because the person who's going to be adjudicating on your challenge, as in somebody at YouTube, is the person who's already judged against you. So it's not like you're getting an impartial arbiter that's going to kind of you know, make a judgment. It's the person it's the person or the organisation or the entity that has already judged against you that you're appealing to, and if they judge that you're making some kind of vexatious, frivolous, impudent, facetious claim, then, you know, bye channel potentially. It's just not worth the risk. And I know Rick Beato and Danny Sapko and Professor of Rock have done similar videos to this, but you know, their videos were slightly different. The topic they were talking about was slightly different because they were actually using, you know, the actual performance of a piece of music that is, you know, when I'm doing a piece of music, let's say I do an Eric Clapton solo in a video, I'm playing the solo myself, you know. I'm not using the Eric Clapton performance of it. That's what they're doing. And, you know, again, fair use applies there as well. But, you know, I'm one step further removed from that. And it's making me think, how do I teach blues guitar on YouTube and earn money at it? And, you know, this is, well, it's not my entire livelihood, but it is part of it. If, you know, I put in maybe a day's work into a video and then just I'm told, sorry, you're not getting paid for that. Is it going to be even possible to teach a 12-bar blues on YouTube in future? Because this isn't static, this is getting progressively worse. Is it going to be possible to continue? I don't know. The channel's going nowhere. I'm going to find, you know, stuff to put out, and I'm going to kind of figure a way of doing the tuition side of what I do. But it's an unnecessary impedance that shouldn't be there and isn't justifiable. But what am I going to do? Am I going to go down to my local high street and go to, I don't know, Askew's solicitors and say, because they're on Redcar High Street, and say, yes, I know you normally deal with, you know, kind of probate and wills and conveyancing, but I'd like you to take on the might of, you know, one of the biggest tech firms in Silicon Valley, and they're, do you remember that scene in The Simpsons where Mr. Burns picks up a phone and like a wall of lawyers comes out? You know, it's kind of that situation. It's David and Goliath. So most people will do what I'm having to do, which is to fold. I don't like it. It's, as I say, the hackles are up a little bit, but I don't see what else I can do because the copyright wombles are just getting a little bit too big for their boots. And you know, I'm going to have to put my thinking cap on. We shall see. I don't know whether I'm going to be able to teach blues on YouTube anymore. That is the long and the short of it. Maybe that's the title for the video. Anyway, I've gone on long enough. Sorry, chaps, for the rant, but that is, I just needed to get it off my chest. You know, I'm improvising over a backing track that I've created myself, and I'm getting told that I'm copying somebody else's work and therefore don't deserve to get paid for it. I'm not a happy camper about it, but you know, worse things happen, as they say. And that is the video for today, folks. If for some bizarre reason you've enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell if you haven't already done so, and why not drop me a like as well while you're at it. And don't forget the live stream tomorrow and every Friday 5 PM UK time, where we drink beer and grumble about stuff, or have a chat, as I would say. But you know, I could definitely use a long, tall, cold one now because well, there's a Y in the day, but we won't go into that. Thanks for watching, everyone. Look after yourselves. Till next time, stay well, stay safe, and above all, stay sane. Bye for now.